Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. This is Brian and I am the Sycle trainer for Starkey Hearing Technologies. If you ever need assistance with Sycle, you can call Starkey and ask for technical support, or if you want, you can also email us at oms_support@starkey.com. This is video 3 of 14 videos. In the last video, we covered how to do patient searches, and in this video, we're going to talk about how do you add a new patient. Now, one of the differences about Sycle compared to other office management systems is that in order to do anything in Sycle, you have to have a patient created in the system first. And there are a couple ways to do that, so I'm going to show you how to do that right now. The very first way to do that is going over to the left-hand side underneath your patient search. It says Add New Patient. And again, you can't do anything in the system unless you have the patient created first. And you also want to be careful, as I talked in the previous video, that you want to search for your patients first. Make sure that they're not already in the system before you create a new patient, because duplicates cannot be deleted. And if you have duplicates, they also cannot be consolidated. And so you'd have to archive them, and I'll talk about that later on in this particular video. So again, the first way to create a new patient is just to click on this Add a New Patient link right below the patient search. This is going to open up your intake form, and you're just going to start at the very top. Now, there are a few things that are required that you definitely need. And so I'm going to create a patient. His name is Al Moen. We'll do Al, last name Moen. And so you're going to need the first name, last name, and you're also going to need the phone number. My Sycle is a little bit quirky and it asks for the date of birth, but you will not be asked for the date of birth, but you can definitely put that in there. It's just not a requirement. Okay, so put that information in. He lives at 123 3rd Street in the beautiful Minneapolis, Minnesota state. Okay, and we'll say 55422. So I have his address in here. And then I'm going to draw your attention to the patient type up at the top. There are 3 different patient types that you're going to have in here. Prospects are going to be people who are brand new to your office that have not currently purchased hearing aids at all, so they do not own any hearing aids. Current are patients that purchased hearing aids from your office. And competitive are patients who have hearing aids, but they did not get them from your office. Now, I'm going to start out with him being a prospect. And if he does go on later on to purchase hearing aids from me, that will automatically change to current. So I won't have to go in and change that manually. The next thing is, if you want to, these would be for marketing purposes. You can mark whether they're an insurance patient. If you do speech-language pathology in your office, you can mark that they're a speech-language pathology patient. Or if they have tinnitus, you also can mark that here. I'm going to mark gender. We have a male. He's a male. And I'm going to go ahead and put in his birthday. Okay, March 9th, we'll do 1975. Okay, you can add a preferred language if you want, and then I'm going to add a phone number. And then you don't have to do the home as a primary, you just have to choose a phone number. Most people have cell phones nowadays. Put in that, and then I also can put email address. That in here. And then below that, we have our original referral source. Now, this is going to be good to fill these in, especially to tell what type of marketing campaigns or how are you getting people into your office. What's working, what's not working. So you're always going to want to put in the original referral source. And here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that they learned about us online. And not only do we have the referral source, we also have sub-referral sources. So it was online, but what type of online referral got them in here? And so let's say that they went to our website. Okay, went to our Better Hearing website. I could put that on. Otherwise, if it's not currently in here, the administration hasn't been added through administration, I can put other and then put in the description right here. I'm just going to say, yep, it's from the Better Hearing website. And then you're also going to want to mark, especially if you have multiple clinics and multiple providers, which clinic are they going to be going to, and then which provider are they going to see. Also in the administration, you can set it up that if you accidentally try to schedule them for a different provider, it will give you a prompt saying, normally this patient is with this provider and you're trying to schedule them with this other provider. Do you want to proceed? It is kind of a nice fail-safe. And so it's always good to put this information in here. So I put Minneapolis Clinic and Brian as the provider. Below that, we have employment and student status. You can say, whether or not they're employed or they're retired. I'm going to say that he's retired. And then whether or not they're a student, what school they go to, just to kind of build that bond later on, maybe talk about what school they went to or maybe where they work. And then their marital status. Let's say that Al is married. We'll do Jody Moen. Okay. Is a spouse of patient? We'll say not right now. Now the snowbird address, this is going to be mainly for people who live in Minnesota and actually have access to maybe a different state. Maybe they have a home in Arizona or Florida, someplace nice and warm, and they leave Minnesota during the winter time to escape the brutal cold and snow. You can type in their address here. That way, if you want to contact them, you can call them or send mailings to their other address. Privacy, you can say whether or not they've signed the HIPAA waiver. Is it okay to send them mail, okay to call, okay to text, okay to email? If it is checked, that means that it is okay to do so. Emergency contact, this is pretty standard in all forms. Who are you going to contact in case something goes wrong and you need to get a hold of someone right away? You can put information in here. The responsible party, I get questions on this quite a bit. This is going to be for anyone other than the patient who's going to be paying for the hearing aids or the services that are provided by the clinic. So this could be, maybe there is an elderly patient that you have and their child is the one who pays for all of their services and all their hearing aids. You would put in the responsible party here, and then you'd say bill to responsible party. You would check this box down here in the bottom corner. In this case, I'm going to say that Al does not have a responsible party. Also, there's another instance where possibly if he is currently employed, maybe the employer, maybe it's a manufacturer and they work with really loud equipment and they're going to pay for all of their employees to have hearing protection. That might be another example of a responsible party. Moving on to background, if maybe they had hearing aids in the past, it might be good to speak with the previous provider from time to time. So you can put the previous provider information in here and the previous provider phone number. And so I'm just going to say, yes, John Smith was the previous provider, and his number is this right here. Another thing, too, is it is also often good to know who their primary physician is. So maybe if the patient has some sort of ear infection or anything else that needs to be looked at other than having hearing aids, you can put the primary physician in here. The cool thing about this is you also can keep different physicians in here and add them. You can go under lookup and see which physicians are in here. So there's a whole list of different physicians already in here, and if they're not on that list, you actually can add them in here as well. So I'm just going to say that Dr. Victor Frankenstein is his provider. And then also, another thing too that you'll want to do is, I'm sure you guys are all working with different ENT offices, that if a patient comes into your office and they have an ear infection or something's going on with the actual hearing mechanism of the patient, that we can get them to a different physician. And then when they see patients who might need hearing aids or need hearing care, then they can refer them to you. And this also, it says below there, HCFA box 17. If you're doing an insurance claim, this will automatically populate in there. So I'm just going to go look up a physician. I'm going to say it's also Dr. Frankenstein, and then we're all set there. Now, I get a lot of questions about this notes section here. Now, if you put in notes in this notes section, what happens is it actually does a name stamp, a date and time stamp. So, new patient has hearing loss. Okay, I can't spell all the time, and it doesn't tell me how to spell that there, but if I come here and then I save this later on, there will be a date and timestamp with my name on that. I will keep that in there for now and show you what that looks like later. But I mention that because you're not going to want to put notes in here that you want to keep. You don't want to put notes in here that you don't want to keep in here forever. So maybe you have a difficult patient, you want to put notes in the system about that. Well, you're not going to want to put that in here because this is going to stay in here forever and you can never delete that. You might want to put that in the appointment notes. If there's something very particular that you want to let the provider know about, you can definitely do that. Okay, but normally people use this for SOAP notes, anything that's subjective, objective, any type of things that you want to put in there like that. And then we also have insurance. So if they do have a type of insurance, which most people do, you're definitely going to put that in here. There's spots to have 4 different insurance providers. Normally people don't have 4. A lot of people for sure have 1, but some people also have 2. But I'm going to go ahead and click on look up. And then I'm going to select Aetna. Okay. And then I'm going to submit that. If it's not currently in your dropdown, you also can add that just right below as well. So I'm going to say Aetna payment. This is going to be a commercial insurance company, but you can see all the different payment sources that you can choose here. The ID number, this will just be right on the insurance card. Their policy group or FECA number. Okay. Plan or group name if they need one, estimated benefits, copay, deductible, all that stuff you can put right here. And then relationship to the insured, I'm just going to say itself. And then later on, if I do an insurance claim, which I will do, that's going to be all set up for me. Below that, you have an insurance checklist that you can fill out as well. I'm not going to go over this yet, but I mean, this is going to be things that you might want to fill in as well. And then hearing loss. If you know that they already have a hearing loss, you can fill this in. Otherwise, if they're coming in for the first time, then you will not fill this in if they don't know what their hearing loss is. But it's always good to kind of see maybe where they started and where they are now. And so you can keep track of all that stuff. So let's say that Al came in and he started with a mild, moderate hearing loss for both ears. And that was, and this doesn't have to be exact dates. You can also get approximate dates. Maybe he did this a few years ago. And that'll be in there too. Now, this next part is really important. If they already have hearing aids, you're going to want to keep track of that and make sure that you have all that information as well. So under current equipment, this is, again, if they already have hearing aids, you're going to add information here. And I'm going to click on Add Equipment. So you're going to come in here. The great thing about this, about Sycle, is that it makes sure that it has every single manufacturer out there known to man. Like, I've never heard of a WOW manufacturer, but those hearing aids sound pretty cool. But again, it has everything in here. I usually come in here, since I work with Starkey, I just type in T, because there's so many different S's in here. Just type in T, it goes to Telex, which is just a few spots ahead of Starkey. I click on Starkey. And you're going to choose the type of hearing aid. We're going to say this is a Rick. And maybe he had the 3 Series I-110s. Type in a serial number. Battery type, 312. One thing to know about battery type is that in here it lists a whole bunch of different battery types. You're going to want to make sure you select the batteries that do not have letters or anything else after them. This will enable you to have those dots that I showed you in one of the previous sessions. So if someone comes in just as a battery, just wants to buy batteries, they're going to be able to do that very quickly. So choose a battery type, that's the number. This next part is the most important, so please remember this if you don't remember anything else. When you're putting in already existing equipment, make sure you put in the purchase date, okay? Because if you keep that blank, it may randomly put in 3 different dates. It might put in today's date, which they didn't purchase these old hearing aids today, so that won't help you when it comes to doing reports later on. Also, it might put in a date of 11/30 of 1999 or 12/31 of 1969. Now, this will be important because when you're pulling reports later on for your close rates and for your fitted and not sold, it's important to make sure that you have this in here so those reports are accurate. So I'm going to say that he purchased these hearing aids 2015. Maybe I should do 4/5/2015. You don't have to have the exact price, maybe an approximate price that they paid for these hearing aids. And then you also can put their warranty information in here. Okay. That information is all set. And if they have 2 hearing aids, you can also just click on this binaural fit. It'll fill all the information except for the serial number. I'll make these sequential. That's all set there, and I'm good to go. So I have all that information in there. And also, again, for marketing purposes, you are able to create custom groups in the administration section. And then from here, maybe there's a veteran, maybe you want to do a veteran direct mailer. You can come here and you can check exactly all the different things that you might want them to be a part of. And then later on, when you pull that report, this patient will be on there. So after you've done that, you are all set. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And then now he's currently in our system. So that's one way to add a patient, and then I will be able to search for him later. Otherwise, if someone just walks in, you can always go down to the actual date and time that you want the appointment to be for. So let's say that they just walk in and we have an opening at 3 and they want to see a provider. I can come here, click on this line, and then it's going to ask me to type in a name, but from here I can just do a quick add, which is right here, or I can do an add new patient. Either way, a quick add is just going to be basic information. I can fill in all of the information later on, but I can do it this way as well. Okay? So there's 2 ways that you can add the information. The other thing to know is that if a patient no longer is with your particular office or clinic, you can change them to being archived. So I'm going to say that Al, maybe he's moving to California. Beautiful state. I would search for him. I would find him in the system, so Al Mullen. And then just to know too, if the name is ever hyperlinked anywhere in the system, if you click on that name, it will always bring you to the patient summary. So I have him here. Now, if Al is no longer going to be coming to my clinic, and I don't want him to be on my search results all the time, I can come here and I can do a quick edit. Because what I want to do is when I do a search in the archive searching, I want to be able to know why he's no longer in my office. So I can actually put a quick note in the preferred name. So I'm going to say, moved to California. And I'm going to save that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to archive the patient. Click on Archive. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to archive this patient? You're going to say, OK. Now when I go to search for Al, he's not going to populate in my normal search results. But if I click on this archive search, he's going to come up and say, oh, that's the reason why he's no longer in the system, is because he moved to California. And if you want to, maybe he moved back to Minnesota full time now. I can actually do a search for him and just click on unarchive. And then now he's no longer going to be archived, and I will find him in my active searches. Alrighty, so that is the end of video 3. How do you add a patient? Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to teaching you more in the next video courses.